welcome to Core Concepts. We're coming to you today from the Grindz Coffee and Tea Shop on Dexter Road in Memphis, Tennessee. This is actually called Cordova, and we want to welcome our studio audience, and want to be talking today to Daniel C. Lohrman, a crisis counselor for 32 years. And I'm pretty much going to let Dan talk because I don't think he needs the questions to prompt him. He's a lecturer. So, Daniel, we met last, 2 weeks ago at your house for a new metaphysical type or group, or thinking group, a discussion group. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today, and then we'll get into what you've been doing.
You mean about the metaphysical
About the group, yes.
Well, we met for the first time, I think, a week or two, and it's just a group of people that wanted to get together after a Cryon event. So a lot of us in the area have been to Cryon Read Carroll channels, this beautiful entity called Cryon. So we created a list there, and we had probably 16, 17 people there. And we're just opening up to people like-minded who are in the metaphysics and expanded consciousness, and really open to anybody. And so if you're from the Memphis area, or if you'd like to join that group, you can go on my website and just shoot me an email, and I'll give you the time and the address.
Go ahead with your website or contact number as well.
It's dlohrman.com. Lohrman. D. Lohrman? Huh? Oh, Dan Lohrman? Oh, yeah, sorry. DanLohrman.com. And just go to my website, and you can shoot me an email, and I'll give you the time and locations of those meetings. Thanks a lot.
And it was very interesting meeting all of the people there and listening to their story and kind of how they've come to be in the mindset that they are now. What do you expect to do with that group now?
Well, we're going to do a lot of different things. Next Wednesday, probably won't be too late for anybody to come, but Dr. Todd developed these tones, and he's going to talk about how powerful these tones are. Tones that really haven't been around for a couple 100,000 years. So toning is, sound and tones are very powerful. So we'll be actually watching a video on that for our next session. And then it's really depending on the group. There's so many people that have interests and talents that we give them an opportunity to share with the group, and it'll develop as it goes. So don't know where it's going to go, Jim. But, we'll see.
Well, you talked about not exactly coming out of the closet, but being able to talk about what you want to and teach what you want to as a crisis counselor. Can you tell us now where you're going with things?
Sure.
Future holds for us?
Sure. Well, for 32 years, the educational system basically in Baltimore, Maryland, you have to be kind of conservative. And what I found is that traditional counseling really doesn't work very well. It's, you can go to a traditional counselor and you can go 10 sessions, you can go a couple of years, and you can still have a problem. So you're really not trained to fix anything. And I don't know about you, Jim, but if you went to a car dealer and they said, well, we may be able to fix your car, there's a 10% chance we can fix your car, I don't know how popular you would be. But it seems like in the counseling profession, people don't expect a lot. Well, ever since, I guess, 1985, when I was a counselor for the Jesuits, they introduced me to a non-traditional approach to counseling. And it started me off, it was called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it was amazing, Jim. Father Ralph Metz, who introduced it, we were having lunch one day, and he said, Dan, you ever heard of NLP? And I said, no. He said, well, guess what I can do? He was in a car accident, and he was taking pain medications like candy. He said he was worried about getting addicted. So he did his research and found this program, and he took NLP, and he could give himself, after the program, his own pain medication without the pain medication. And I said, you did what? Well, that was the beginning of the end, because then they paid for my training, and NLP is probably one of the best technologies for personal change on the planet. It's very simple, it's very easy. You can eliminate a phobia in 5 minutes. You can get rid of an allergy in 5 minutes. any physical or emotional issue, Jim, it has a subconscious component to it. So traditional counseling only dealt with the conscious mind, whereas NLP and these other techniques that I studied really actually give you a tool to bridge the conscious to the subconscious, whereas before that time, hypnosis is really the only thing that did that. And hypnosis was kind of, it had its time, but it was kind of, you have to go through an induction. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. But it didn't have the sharp tools as NLP did, and it really makes a difference. So what I discovered and what I teach people is that your brain and my brain are very, very powerful. But nobody gave us the instruction manual for how to use our brain. And what tools like NLP, EFT, the Emotional Freedom Technique, and Psych-K are tools that are very easy that you can learn, I can learn, and we can really heal ourselves. So I'd like to say that, I would say that we probably, and I'm not a scientist, but we probably just use about 3% of our brain. If you look at somebody like Einstein, he was probably using 10% of his brain, and he was pretty good, wasn't he? I mean, he was kind of in that alpha state. In that alpha state, there's a very creative process that goes on, and you come up with solutions. Being a crisis counselor and working with lots of students, I've seen students that were savants, students that could just, as soon as the teacher put the math problem on the board, they knew the answer. Well, why can't you do that? Why can't I do that? And what I've discovered and what these other programs have discovered is that we are limited by our belief system. That who you are and who I am is basically controlled by what we believe. I love Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton says that the secret to life is beliefs. And so what NLP does, I'll talk about that for a minute, it gives you a way to actually look at how you structured your belief system. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have a student come to see me who's not doing very well in math. And, they're getting punished for it. They can't go out for sports, so there's some motivation in trying to change. But they've tried everything. Well, there's a simple NLP technique that's really powerful. And you don't start with the math. Well, let's say, so that I asked him, well, would you be willing to close your eyes for a minute and just go ahead and see yourself going to math class and then begin to report to me what you see? And in NLP, you look for the visual, you look for the auditory, and you look for the physical connection of the two. So a typical response from a kid having difficulty with math would be something like this. Okay, I can see myself in class. It's in black and white. It's going really slow. I can hear all the kids talking. I can't hear my teacher. And this little voice on the right side of my head is saying, this is boring and I'm never going to get it. And they have a physical feeling of tiredness. And it's going so long, they can't wait to get out of there. That's their internal representation of that math class. So I write that down. Those are what we call submodalities. And then I say, well, tell me something that you really love to do. And they'll pick something like the sport, tennis or golf or football. And then I'll have them do the same exercise, but I get a different internal picture. So it's something like this. They'll say lacrosse, and they'll say, okay, yeah, oh yeah. And the first thing I notice is that I'm in my body, and I'm going really fast, and everything's in color now. Wow, everything's in color. And it's like I'm in the zone. I have this voice on this other side of my head saying, I love this. I can do this. This is great. And boy, I just feel great. I feel powerful. So now I have two different experiences, one he loves and one he doesn't. And so all you do in NLP is switch them. So I go back now to the math picture, and I say, okay, well, close your eyes. Now remember, you're powerful, and you can have like a computer screen if you want, with dials and switches. So the first thing I want you to do is to go back and go into your body, into that room. And then make everything colorful and bright. Turn the sound. You have little dials for the sound. So turn the sound down for all your friends in the back, and turn the sound up for the teacher. And then adjust the speed, and notice what happens. And now, go through those. It'll take about a minute, and they go, wow, I can hear the teacher. Wow, it makes sense. And I'll actually, what we call future pace them for a couple of weeks. And now they start seeing, just because we made those simple changes, they now begin to see themselves passing their first test in a couple of years. And it's amazing. So once you make that little change called I can't do well in math, and it had a different internal picture, you just go in, you know, kind of like going into the hard drive, Jim. That's where the power is. The program's in the hard drive. What shows up consciously on our monitor is just a little aspect of it. And that, you know, you can't really change the monitor. You've got to go into the hard drive. So in NLP, you go into the hard drive and you create changes instantly. And it's really kind of fun. So,
talking about Bruce Lipton, he's referring to Dr. Bruce Lipton, the author of Biology of Belief. I'm going to get that in there because you mentioned the name, they may not know it. You can go find Biology of Belief. He's a very interesting man. I had the opportunity of attending about 3 weeks, a 3-day workshop at Christian Brothers University. And I'd get there at 8 o'clock in the morning and he'd already be there talking. And we'd go to lunch and he'd be talking. Come back from lunch, he's still talking. I'd leave at 5 o'clock and he's still talking. He was a tremendous amount of energy. And he was a cellular biologist who I think must have been an atheist at the time. And in working with the cells, he found that the brain of it is in the shell. And he said, oh my God, there's a God. I thought that was very interesting from there he went.
Well, there are really two things that are changing the world. Bruce's work is the second one. The first one was Einstein's work in quantum mechanics and quantum physics. Because what we found out, if you look at the traditional medical model for both physical and emotional, they see the body as a machine, okay? And if it breaks down, you either change the diet, you get a medication, or you do surgery. So Einstein said something very important. He says, it's the field that's the sole governing principle of the particle. And before that, everybody thought it's our DNA that controls our life, our longevity, our health, you know, everything. And so there was kind of an approach that we're victims of our body, we're victims of our own health, of our own DNA. And Einstein comes by and says, no, wait a minute, everything is energy, and that energy is controlled by the field. Well, what's another name for the field? It's our consciousness. And so what Bruce Lipton was able to do was to prove that DNA actually is enhanced, it's influenced by the environment. So if you put healthy cells in a healthy environment, or sick cells in a healthy environment, they get well. So that really goes along with the work that I do for people, is that you can change your consciousness, you can change your whole structure. You can change cancer cells, you can change anything. And it's really going back and just believing you can do it.
We may have time, and you asked about this, if there's anyone in the studio audience who would like to come up to the table and where we can illustrate what you do in crisis. Well, you wouldn't consider this to be crisis counseling, would you?
Well, no. I mean, but for anybody who has a phobia or an allergy or a health issue, it's a crisis for them. So you can really say anything you want to change. It's a mini crisis, I guess.
So keep that in mind. Anybody would like to come up? We will have that demo a little later in the show. So now that you are coming out of the closet, so to speak, what does that mean?
Well, it means that I want to teach other people these techniques. I spent a lot of money being trained in NLP, not so much EFT, but in Psych-K. The number one problem in our school systems is anxiety. Well, there's a technique in EFT, the emotional freedom technique, where you can just have a student begin to tap on different meridian points and talk their truth, like, oh, I'm really afraid of this test, or I'm nervous, I'm going to get... And it actually goes to the anxiety and disappears it. So there are things, really, nobody should be living with a phobia or PTSD. We're having a lot of combat vets come back in crisis with emotional events that they can't sleep now, they have to take medication, they have to medicate themselves. And there are techniques, Jim, now, 3 or 4 sessions, you can eliminate PTSD from your life. You can eliminate major depression from your life in less than an hour. Anxiety. We shouldn't have to be taking all these drugs to control these feelings, because this is the key. If we begin to learn to communicate with our body has all the information. And what we've basically done is we've ignored the pain, we've ignored the internal conversation. And what these techniques have you do is to go in and listen to your body. Hey, let's talk to that cancer and see what it has to say. Let's talk to the angry part. And you may discover it's a child that's been there for a long time that still feels betrayed. So you get an amazing amount, and this is what, if somebody wants to come up, this is what we'll do. We'll just start with an issue. Okay, it could be a pain, it could be an emotion, it could be a fear. You go into the middle of it, and you ask permission for it to communicate, and boy, you get a lot of information. And then you just go with it. And then you allow the person to have their experience. And this is really, I think, critical, because I think 80% of all health problems, there's an emotional component with it. Meaning, there's anger, there's sadness, there's resentment, there's fear. And when that energy stays in the body, it starts to affect us physically. When we clear that energy, when we allow the energy just to be expressed, it disappears. And it's beautiful. If somebody has a headache, you can get rid of a headache in 30 seconds to a minute just by feeling it, describing it, the shape, the size, what color it is, where is it located. You begin to focus on the energy, and it just begins to melt away.
There's an illustration I use about fear being like mold, that as soon as you open the door and get fresh air and light in there, the mold just disappears. That sounds like what you're describing, right?
Exactly. But we've learned to carry the emotion, especially men and boys. Don't, be strong, don't express yourself. So men in particular, we have to re-educate our children. We have to re-educate ourselves. We have to allow ourselves to have our feelings and emotions. And I have this little chart, okay? And most of us haven't been able to express anger. And if you don't express anger, what happens is it leads to depression. So the definition of depression is suppressed anger over time. So I love it when I get kids that are angry, because you put them in the gym, you let them hit a boxing bag, you have them run, you have them do something physical to burn it off, and they go, thank you. But that energy is very, very powerful. And if you stuff it in, if you suppress it, it does some terrible stuff to you, emotionally. I believe it's a source of most illnesses.
This would have a tremendous effect on heart disease. If you're able to come with something that relieves the stress like that, then you just drastically reduce one of the main causes of heart disease.
Dr. Bernie Siegel, he was a heart surgeon, and he studied why people had remissions from cancer or heart disease. And they're finding, they decided to express themselves. Okay, what do I have to lose? So they started to have a life they always wanted to have. They started to go and communicate. They started to write letters. Hey, I never told you this. And they're finding that there's something remarkable. You go back into natural harmony. Your energy field goes back into harmony. And it's strong, it's beautiful. It just works great.
Do we have anybody been sitting there thinking about coming up and, okay, come up, Mark. Just bring it here.
I got one.
Do what he does, right?
Yeah, and I never know what it's going to be. So, Mark, we've never met, right? Okay. Glad to meet you. So, can you tell me what the issue is that you'd like some relief today with?
Well, in May of 1997, I delved into, and I'm glad I did, to find out why I'm the way that I am. And now 16 and a half years later, I take all the medicines. One of my former doctors, Dr. Cedric Moore, who's retired and gone back to home in Switzerland, had through it all mapped my brain out as much as technology then would allow. And so I've been diagnosed with what they call
Are you feeling it right now? Are you feeling it right now?
Horrible stuff.
Okay.
So I know I'm in a room with people that care. Left frontal lobe seizure disorder.
Okay.
My brain does not alert me. I don't make any mistakes. What to me is special. My brain does not process serotonin like a normal person. I tell people I take the medicine to exist in your world. Like I can relate to Quasimodo, Hunchback in Notre Dame, flash line that Charles Lawton said in that movie when he looked at the stone figure and said, if only I could be me to be a stone figure sometimes. It's peaceful.
So let me start. Give me your first name again.
Mark.
Mark. When I work with people, I like to let you know that how powerful you are. And you may not going to believe what I'm going to say next, but I'd like you to kind of just consider for a minute that there was a purpose to this in your life. Okay, whatever this is, there was a purpose, and that you had on a higher self level something to say about it. Because I really believe that we're not victims of life. And I believe that what comes to us is either a gift or a blessing or it's a teaching for us, okay? And so, how do you feel about that concept?
I like that. I liked everything I've heard today.
Okay.
I knew it was meant for me to be here.
Okay. So, Mark, what I want you to do is we're just going to go exploring. And your job is just to tell me what you notice. So, we'll start with having you go to that part of your brain. And I'm just going to, maybe you're visual, maybe you're not. I'm not. If I close my eyes, I really can't. But I'm very auditory. I can hear things and I can feel things. We're going to go into that area. You just tell me, you report to me what you see, hear, or feel, and we'll go from there, okay? So, close your eyes. And use your imagination now and go in. Is it on the right side, or the left side, or the middle, or where do you say this energy, this issue is in your life?
I've been told it's in the left frontal lobe.
Okay?
With the doctors.
So go there now. Put all your concentration into that spot. Use your imagination and tell me if you can go in there and see it, feel it, and hear it, what do you notice?
Right now, I don't seem to notice anything.
How are
in
you,
there.
that's okay. How are you feeling physically? You had some emotions come up earlier, right?
Sitting down here. Oh yes, because when I come into a room full of people that I know that care for being in the absence of it, we all need to be loved.
Okay.
It's out.
Okay. And is where are you feeling anything now in your body, or are you hearing anything, or seeing anything?
Physically, I feel fine.
Okay.
I feel good.
So go to a moment where this has affected you, maybe in the past, okay, where it limited you. Some experience that you noticed this illness or this problem. And tell me if you're there, some incident in the past. Okay? Review it, and then notice what you're feeling, what you're seeing inside, or what you're hearing. You know, we have little, sometimes, conversations in our head. So go back to that moment and notice if any of those components are there.
I feel they're all there.
Okay, so what, do you have any internal voices that are saying anything like, oh, not again, or, you know, anything negative or anything positive?
Well, always remember, he said it so many times, Dr. Lohrman, Warren, you're always so hard on yourself. You're too hard on yourself. And
Is that true?
yes, sir, I don't mean to be.
Okay. No, I want you to be hard on yourself, Mark. Just go ahead for this exercise. Pick something and just start being hard on yourself, and notice how you do that internally. So, in fact, I want you to teach me how to be hard on myself now. You're going to be a teacher. So what happens inside of you when you get hard on yourself? Do your muscles get tight? Do you start to say something to yourself? Do you see a picture from the past?
It does, I'd say, not only borders on, but there's like paranoia that shouldn't be there. None of this should be there.
Go to the paranoia, Mark, and tell me what it's saying or what it's feeling.
thinking about me. You know, and, you know, it doesn't matter that much what they think about me.
Beautiful.
You know?
Beautiful. Now stop for a minute. Locate where that voice came from. The front of your head, the back of your head, the side of your head, outside of your head.
I just feel like front and center.
Very good. Now, pay attention to it and notice if it's your voice or somebody else's voice.
It's mine.
Okay? And is it your voice as a child, as an adult, as a teenager?
All my life.
All your life. So it's an internal voice that's been there a long time. So we're going to interact with this voice for a minute. Would that be okay with you? So ask this voice, you don't have to say it out loud. Ask, what's your purpose in my life? Why are you telling me this information? What are you doing for me?
You do that internally.
Yeah. And then let that inner voice speak back and say whatever it says to you.
You want to know?
Yes.
I'm getting in your way. I'm causing problems that don't exist.
Okay?
It doesn't matter what they think about me. So, really, believe, I know that God, who made no mistakes, knows about me.
Okay, so a lot of different information there, right? So thank this voice for communicating.
But I still struggle.
I know. And ask it, well, why are they, your voice can tell you anything, right? It can tell you you're great, you're wonderful, but it's saying this stuff to you. So ask it, where did you get this information from? Where did you learn this to tell me it constantly? Where did that come from?
The inner voice?
Yeah.
Well, I'm aware of a book title that I read a long time ago. I think it was Nature versus Nurture, or Nature, having to do with nature and nurture. Not only the environment that I was raised in, and all was, it wasn't until the fall of 2002 I realized I was holding my head up, looking at me.
Actually, what?
Holding my head up.
And how was that?
In their eyes. It doesn't matter what you think. Listen.
How old are you there?
Maybe 6.
Go back there, Mark, for a moment.
I felt good.
Go back there. And go back as you are right now to that life and introduce yourself to that past self of yours. Make contact. Hug that part. Because that's a very important part of you, isn't it? And Mark, I want you to understand that in your imagination right now, you're magical, okay? You have powers you never dreamed you had. And so you're a wizard now when you go back to that 44-year-old. And ask that 44-year-old, what would it like more than anything else?
Want to know?
Yes. Very good. And what would that look like? Ask him.
Freedom.
And what picture would be there? How would you know there was freedom if you saw it?
Well, it's like I wake up every day. The past is gone.
Yes.
I know that I'm not even honest tomorrow. Enjoy this day. It's fun.
Yes. So there's some issues with the past. Okay. Well, let's go back a little earlier then. Would you be willing to do that? And I want you to go back to as young as you can go back, to 4 or 5, and that would be great. And let me know if you can go back there and tell me when you can see that little mark. Okay?
Okay.
Introduce yourself to him. Let him know, hey, I'm you in the future. I've come back to help. And talk to him. Maybe he needs a hug. Maybe he needs, in fact, you can give him anything he wants at this make that connection. Just love him. Tell him how beautiful and wonderful he is. And that you are never going to leave him ever again. And if there's anything he wants to fix in his life, anything he wants to change,
The only thing I look forward to, how wonderful it be to laugh all the time.
good.
You know, I love being around people that give laughter.
So guess what?
Joy.
You're going to teach him how to laugh. You can bring clowns in. You know, you can bring professional laughers in. Remember, you're magical. So you're going to give him that. And you're going to let him try it out. And he's either going to like it or not like it. We can change it, but see what if that makes a difference for him.
He's ready.
Is he laughing? Hopefully it doesn't get him in trouble when he goes to school, right? Okay. But what does that give him as far as confidence, as far as self-esteem? You just gave him laughter, correct? How does that make a difference for him?
He's going to make up his mind what he wants to do and be in life and be it.
Beautiful. Does he know right now what he wants to be or do? Or does he want to hang out and find out later?
I know now.
Very good. What's he want to be?
I'm blessed to write poems inspired by the Lord to tell the world who Jesus is to me.
Beautiful. So now your job is to get that for him. Okay, you're gonna not leave his side. You're gonna allow him to grow up, become 5, 6, 7, but you're gonna be there as his coach, encouraging him, giving him anything he needs. Allow that to happen, and start building his life back up now, having him get closer and closer to those dreams coming true. Letting me know if there's any snags along the way. And just kind of report occasionally, okay, now he's 10, and this is happening. And it's different from my life. Hopefully you're making a difference for him, and he's making different choices, he's doing different things. His self-esteem is getting stronger, correct? Allow that new self for him to grow, to get more powerful.
In the process, stay away from those things
Yes.
that are destructive,
Beautiful.
that are stumbling blocks,
Yeah. He doesn't make the same mistakes.
detours, unscheduled detours,
Very good.
doors open that shouldn't have been open.
Beautiful. Have him choose another direction and see the consequences.
Sacrifice, you know, no matter, you know,
Yes.
good sacrifices, you know, to get there, pay the price.
Yeah, lots of good work, right? Lots of hard work. And how old is he right now?
We're up to today, you know.
Beautiful. So I want you to describe him for me now, Mark. This beautiful little Mark that you supported and coached. Tell me about him. How is he different from you? What's his self-esteem? What's he accomplished? Does he have this medical issue in his mind?
I don't feel that I do. I don't feel the need for it. You know,
Beautiful.
I feel much more complete. And at peace. It's wonderful to be here. When I first heard this being here, I knew it was meant to be here. I didn't know it was coming up. I wanted to come up when I first heard the invitation. Because I knew I'm the one you're talking about. And, you know, I don't want to, and never have, just gone to the doctor for medicine. The more I don't take it, the better I feel. They do have side effects. I don't like it.
Gotcha.
I don't like to feel sluggish. I like to feel alive.
So Mark, let's finish this because I've got a gift for you, okay? So now you really like this new Mark that you just created. Okay, let him thank you for that because you did that for him. And let him give you a big hug. Let him acknowledge you for that. And then he has a gift he wants to give you. Are you in You got to be ready for it, okay? He would like to blend with you to become one, okay? All his confidence, all his accomplishments, everything, his energy is going to blend with yours. Are you willing for that to happen? Okay. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take both your hands and kind of just lift them up like this. And in one hand is you, okay? And in one hand is him. And as the blending begins to take place, you're going to have your two hands come together. They're just going to come together naturally. And so begin that process. And then bring now the both of you into your heart. And just unconsciously know that all your old programming is being rewritten by him. His positive program is going to override all the negative program. You're allowing it as a conscious choice for you. And you're going to allow his goodness, his energy, to become your energy. And you can keep doing that until you feel it's complete.
I feel like it's a process of things being deleted.
Yes. Keep going. Delete the whole files, all those files.
That's what we're doing. So that's delete all.
Yeah.
I said yes, delete
Yes.
all. It's all gone. And I just ready to go forward into the world.
Then see that happen. And see now, because something's going to be different for you. He's going to be inside of you. He's going to be your new voice, his new encouragement. So now see the weeks and months ahead. Allow that future and begin to report to me what you see in your future.
So much more wonderful. Less writing and voice day.
Yes. And keep looking.
A publication. You know, how wonderful that day to come. I know it's coming.
Go to that day, Mark, and go step into it. It's almost like you're getting the gold medal, okay? And feel it going around your neck, and feel it in every part of your body for that accomplishment. Hear what other people are saying about that accomplishment, okay? Hear what you're saying about that accomplishment. Really enjoy it. And tell me if there's any part of your body that's not enjoying this moment in your life.
No, enjoying it home.
Very good. Very good. Now, Mark, you've done something powerful here. You've connected to an inner source. Okay? You've connected to a higher self here. So the last thing I want you to do now is to allow that connection to your own higher self, to God, to whatever you believe in, that beautiful love and energy. Allow that for a moment to flow through you like it's never flown through you before. Okay? Let it go in every cell of your body. See how strong you can make it.
I feel home. You know, like switched on.
Yes.
Hard.
And you turn the switch, Mark. You allowed that switch. You deleted all the negative, okay? And now what's available is all the positive. So, make sure that switch stays that way. Make some agreements now with yourself. And when you're finished, you can come back and open your eyes. How was that for you?
Wonderful. It's like, for me, it feels like it's all done. And it's wonderful. You know, this past week started because being around all the rest that were sources of negativity, people, businesses, such that are not. But as of this last week, every day this last week, it's been bringing people into my life, including this this day. What was the need?
Yes.
Much appreciated.
And Mark, guess what about those other negative people? They want the same thing. And so now you can send them love, because that's really the source of the problem for all of us. And once that internal love comes in, it just heals everything.
Right. I have no ill will toward anyone. No. Just, like you said, love. The only thing new.
If I can, I'll ask anybody if they have any questions or make any comments, and I'll let you be with that for a moment. Okay? So, anybody have a question or comment on what I just did or what Mark went through?
Do you use any kind of mantra, something that reinforces that suggestion in the mind every day?
Well, what's interesting is that when you change it on the subconscious level, it's permanent. Okay. When I worked with that student who wasn't doing very well in math, once they switched over and created that new image within themselves, having math, it doesn't go away unless there's another trauma that takes place. So our brains will go into a natural direction, and it only has to learn it one time for it to be permanent. Yes, I would recommend Mark spend more time internally, talking to different parts of his body, talking and changing the energy from negative. Hit the delete button. He finds another one, and there's going to be lots of them because I have lots of them. I'm deleting all the time. And it really is, Tony Robbins does this, professionally. He does things and he creates change for people in minutes, and they last a lifetime. A phobia, it just takes a couple of seconds to have a phobia, and it stays with you for the rest of your life until you change it. And then once you change it, I worked with a lady just yesterday who had a balloon phobia for 30 years. And in 10 minutes, she didn't have, in fact, we had balloons at a hospital, and they were doing a balloon thing. And she was sitting there, we had probably 200-300 balloons in a room, and when we were done, she went, I can relax around these balloons for the first time in 30 years. It happened to her when she was 4. And so that's not going to go away. Unless, of course, there's something else that comes by that's a trauma. Those are traumas, the brain is there to survive. And so if there's a threat to our survival, then, like if you're doing well and you're going to war, and all of a sudden, you're picking up body parts and you feel responsible for it. Boy, that's going to do some damage to you because you're going to blame yourself. And then when you start to blame yourself, you're not going to allow anything positive to come into your life. And so you can go back and forgive yourself. There's a beautiful exercise to do for that. And when you forgive yourself, you allow that to come back into your life again. You allow the energy to start flowing again. But those emotional issues that we have tend to block it. Oh, it's in my shoulder, it's in my knee, or it's in my throat, or I'm having headaches. Well, if you go and actually listen to the headache or listen to those parts in your body, you'll get an incredible amount of information. And that's really what I want to tell people. And that's what I want to do, really, the rest of my life, is I want to teach other people, I want to work with people. There are things today, you can go on the EFT website, and you can learn to tap on the emotional freedom, and you can use it for everything. They have thousands and thousands of people with different experiences that will share, and they'll give you the routine. So it's free. It's amazing. But I don't know if I answered your question or not.
You did.
Okay.
I was just wondering, because I've had some experience with that kind of in meditation and in developing the subconscious to, as you say, protect the body against certain effects or whatever the body does. But anyway, I know that the subconscious can be used, if used properly,
Yes.
to correct a lot of problems.
And if you do meditate, then you can introduce new sounds. Like I know James Renford Powell, TM. Well, I've been meditating since 1972 also. I saw one of your videos. And so, you can introduce when you're meditation, you can create, you can see your body healthy.
Right.
You can create a future that you really want. Creation takes place on a subconscious and higher self level. And you can create it consciously, but it's not going to work. That's why affirmational work doesn't. You could spend years and years writing, and it won't take. You do it on a subconscious level. All you got to do for that is just go within and allow your body to speak and talk to you, and use your imagination. Einstein said that imagination is more powerful than knowledge. So if you go in, and if you see your shoulder busted up, take a moment, go into the shoulder, and begin to repair it. Go for it. Use your imagination. Bring energy in. Bring nanolights. Bring little people in. You can use your imagination for anything, and you'll be surprised. I worked with a lady who sprained her ankle. She was going to be running a marathon in 4 weeks, and she was devastated. Her ankle was a balloon. And she went to the doctor, and the doctor says, no, maybe 3 months and you might be running again. Well, I told her over the phone to simply go into her imagination, go to her ankle, and begin to repair it. And she did all kinds of things. She got rid of all the liquid and the swelling and the color. And, there was things that were torn tissue. And she took 20 minutes, and she was done. And the next day she called me and says, Dan, all the swelling's gone from my foot. 3 days later, says, I'm walking again. A week later, she was running again, and she did her marathon. And I said, you got to go back to the doctor. And when she went back to the doctor, the 2 x-rays were so different, the doctor was amazed. He couldn't explain the difference what she had done for herself. At Hopkins University in Baltimore now, for kids with cancer, they're actually having them, Jim, go into that meditative state, pretending that they're a cowboy or a cowgirl, and going through and finding the cancer cells and squirting them and watching them shrink. And these kids are going into remission. They're talking to their cancer, and they're finding out, oh, there's an angry part. I've worked with a number of children with cancer, and what you find is that for them, they blame themselves. They blame themselves for something. I had one little sweet girl, she was 16. She blamed herself for her little brother's death. She actually decided that she would prefer him dead, and then 3 months later, she developed this cancer. And so when she discovered that she felt responsible, she felt like God killed her brother for her, then the next step was, I need to be punished for this. When she did the forgiveness work with her brother in the spirit world, the cancer disappeared. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened. You are powerful. I am powerful. We've got to start. So, I'm out of the cage now, Jim.
Well, it's hard for people to accept that the mind can do this. But, this has been proven over and over again in a wide spectrum of research with the placebo. And you have somebody taking a sugar tablet and the others taking the real medicine, and the one taking the sugar tablet's getting better. and it's because they believe it. It's in their mind, they believe it, and if that's all it's required.
About a year and a half ago, 60 Minutes did a special on this professor or doctor from Harvard, I think it was Harvard. For 30 years, he researched the medication for depression, and he had to use the placebo. And he found out after all 30 years that they had statistically the same effect on a person, that regardless if it's a placebo or the medication, that they got the same rate of being able to be cured.
Share something that might go along with that in my own experience. And I've told people, and after all this time going into this, for me, I know, and I'm qualified to say this, that in all this, I regard the Lord first. The closer I've always felt to the Lord has done more for me than anything that has seen to this day, everything.
But you know what the Lord couldn't do for you, Mark? He couldn't delete what you already created. You had to do that for yourself. Okay? We have to take that next step. We have to own what we created. And a lot of us created stuff when we were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that we forgot about. So basically we're adults now, but our inner child is still in control.
For me to be around people like that are here, and that since Monday, this past Monday, he's introduced every day of my life after all this other, and I know it's by his design, just keeps adding to that, and that it will continue to be deleted, because I only want to be where love is.
You know, I tell teachers, you got to be careful what you tell students. So if I'm saying, don't get upset, don't worry, guess what happens unconsciously? The mind doesn't know negatives. And so in order, like, it's like, don't think about a pink elephant. You have to think about a pink elephant in order not to think about a pink elephant. Does that make sense? The mind doesn't understand negatives. So every time I say, don't be upset, the mind hears, be upset. Don't get angry. And then the mind says to get angry. So what we need to stop doing for our children is telling them all these negatives. And so what do you do instead? You say the positive. So if you're a baseball player and you're up at the plate and the thought comes, I hope I don't strike out, and it's strong enough, you're going to strike out. So if you're a personal coach to that young man, you would say, no, see and hear yourself saying, I'm going to hit a home run. Golfers do it. In fact, you're going to find a lot more professional athletes using the EFT. In fact, if you look at the World Series, I think a couple of Cardinals are in it. So there are people that are actually, you'll look, they'll go, oh, that guy's tapping again. What's he doing? Well, they're creating the relaxation response when you do that. And the body will either go into the fight or flight, the stress response, or the relaxation response. And guess what you want to be in when you're playing sports? The relaxation response. That's where you get into the zone. So we've got all these thoughts. And nobody ever told us that we could interact with those thoughts, and we can ask those thoughts, hey, could you tell me a different message? I know this is my father talking to me, all right? Well, let's change Dad's voice. Let's make it to my, the best teacher I ever had, and let's say something positive. See what that feels like. Wow. Oh, the student come in and they're really, really angry at somebody. And I'll say, okay, close your eyes. Do you see him right in front of you? Yeah. Well, what'll happen? Back him up. Get him out of your space. What happens? Oh, thank you. I feel better. So there are just tons and tons of things you can start working with people, and you get results almost immediately. And work never ends. It's not a one-shot deal. We got to keep working with ourselves. We got to go in and start listening to our bodies, and we got to start bringing in this energy that's available in the universe, Jim, that I believe now is stronger than ever. And I believe that now, I'm going to get weird here, that new dimensions are opening up for us as supports. And so they won't help unless you ask. We have to invite them in. We have to give them permission. And I think I'm excited about the future.
Well, it's really great having you on Core Concepts today, and thank you for participating, Mark, and all of you for being guests on Core Concepts. We appreciate you being with us. I want to remind you that if you are seeing this video anywhere else, you can go to youtube.com, type in Renford Broadcast Network, and you can see all of the Bookman shows which air on Comcast Cable Network here on Saturday evenings. You can see them up there. And you can locate a number. We have a theater there. You can locate a number of movies, spiritual-related movies, that you might not know where to get them. You can go there and get your link. We have audio books there. We have the Laws of Material Wealth Personal Development Program there. And music with meaning. And so I want to invite you to do that. I want to invite you to go to IAM-COR.org to visit the virtual campus of the Institute of Applied Metaphysics, one of the sponsors of this show. The Institute's 3-degree level program is available for you to look at, the bookstore, and a wide range of free materials you can download in the Searcher's Roadmap. You can download the core document, the Unity Principles, and the Lightways e-zine electronic magazine. So I want to hope that you will visit us there, and at blogtalkradio.com/Renford. Go visit our shows. We've got over 5 years of archives there that you can visit. There are 10 hosts now and shows every night of the week. So we hope that you will be able to join us on one of these centers that we are providing. And Thanks very much for being with us tonight on Core Concepts.